So I says to her, "Doctor, that's not." Welcome to the Too Bad We Didn't Get Into Cars podcast. I'm Nick Scarpinato.
I am David Kabushi Cars.
This is Vanessa.
And this is a lovely Lamborghini
Nope.
Gallardo.
Gallardo.
Gallardo. Lamborghini Gallardo LP560-4.
Yeah, we're not sure how it's supposed to be called, but we don't know. We didn't get into cars. We don't know anything about cars, so don't ask us how to pronounce that car name. It is also a police car. Honestly, it's fine.
You ever seen a cop car that's a Lamborghini?
I hope not. Is that what the public's money is going towards? Just for cops to be able to stroll around in really nice, expensive sports cars? Nah, man. All that money should be going back to us so we can buy
Vinyls.
Yeah, dude. Vinyls are expensive.
I want to buy vinyls.
You never really... I don't remember you wanting to buy vinyls until very recently. Because I think
it is a very recent thing.
Well, because we had a conversation about... We've talked about before about how, like, neither of us really thought vinyls were essential to being a music fan. And then I got a record player over quarantine, and I started buying vinyls of, like, my favorite albums. But I don't use it. I don't really use it because the vinyl, like the record player that I got, very cheap. And it was like $100 from Best Buy, and it almost immediately out of the box, it started speeding up just ever so slightly. So all of the songs that I was listening to were like sharper in pitch than the regular song was supposed to be. So I stopped using it, but I have it in my room still, and I will play it every once in a while. Like when Taylor Hawkins passed, I played my There Is Nothing Left to Lose vinyl. Yeah, which I'm just gonna go grab. So you gotta talk to the people.
Yeah, I mean, I also only buy my favorite albums on vinyl, but I strictly have it to my favorite album of each band. So I buy one vinyl per artist. That way I don't bankrupt myself because they're hella expensive.
They're very expensive. There it is. This is the one. And this one is really cool because, okay, normally, as far as I know, that's fine. Normally, vinyl records come on like a single disc. There's like an A side and a B side. But this album with 12 songs has 2 discs, which is 4 sides. And the reason why is, from what I understand, the reason why is because they remastered these tracks specifically for vinyl. And the bigger the grooves on a vinyl record are, the higher fidelity the songs are, like the more clear they are, so the more sound they can contain, and also a lot of bass. So that's why it's really cool to put these on vinyl, because, like, you know, digital audio is going to be the same no matter what, and like it's going to be, you know, reformatted and compressed and everything and sent through all these different formats, and it's not going to be as like pure of a recording as like the original masters, but vinyl gets kind of close to that sound, to the original master sound. So that's why people like vinyl. I like vinyls because if I really like an artwork of like a specific album, I just consider it artwork and I hang it up in my room somewhere. But that's just me. But yeah, this wasn't my first vinyl. My first vinyl was for a band called the 1975, and I got their vinyl record as part of like a merch package from their website, only because I wanted a shirt that they had that was just like a cream, like a off yellow shirt, and in black text, big black text, it said, this is a limited edition the 1975 t-shirt. And I saw them selling that, and I was like, that is hilarious. That's so funny. I don't know why that was so funny to me, but it was just like, yeah, instead of having to go around and tell people like, hey man, this is an exclusive shirt. I don't know if you know that, but you can't really get it. They just put it right on there. So like if you're going to be pretentious about that kind of stuff, which I do, then it just says it right on the shirt. So I thought that was really fun. So that was my first record player and part of the first record and part of the reason why I bought a record player, because I couldn't get that shirt without getting the record, and all the other merch packages were sold out.
First one I got was a band we talked about in episode 1, Explosions in the Sky.
Oh.
That was the first one I got. But it wasn't the album that made me want to start getting them. It was actually Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
Oh, why's that? Was there something special about the vinyl, or just like...
I guess the album, like, I don't say this very often, but it's a masterpiece. So, and man, like for the first few minutes of that album, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, if you know it, you know it. When that organ comes in, swelling in, and those 4 guitar notes, I think that would sound so good. Just like you sitting there listening to an album.
Yeah.
That one would be a really, really good one to
Yeah.
do too. I don't own it yet, but I plan on it. I just haven't found it.
I mean, as soon as you do, you got to bring it on the show, and we got to
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I have like 10 vinyls, including the goddamn Tool Fear Inoculum monstrosity that is 7 discs. And some of the sides are blank. Like there's like one song on each
oh my god
disc, which is
because they're so long, right?
Yeah, but like one of them has like a 12-minute song on it.
Oh,
and it's like,
yeah, I think each side of a vinyl record can only hold up to like 30 minutes approximately.
Yeah, so they definitely could have probably put it on like 5 maybe.
Yeah, but it also depends on like how thick you want those grooves, like how much low end you want, because like vinyl records are expensive to make. Like it is a process. So like when you see that an artist is like putting music out on vinyl, it's really cool, especially if they're like a newer artist. Like when we went to go see Origami Angel, who we talked about in the 3rd episode, something like that. We both got the vinyl for Somewhere City, which is now on my list of favorite albums of all time. I love that album so much. So I was like, they didn't have the just regular CDs, like the compact discs, and we asked about them too. We were like, do you have any of the CDs? Yeah. CDs nuts.
Stop it. God, that's like the 3rd time this podcast.
Sorry.
Motherfucker with the CD nuts.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, but they didn't have the CDs.
That's the thing too, is like some albums, they only come on vinyl now.
Yeah.
Like that Dave Grohl Play thing, only on vinyl.
Yeah.
Explosions in the Sky, they had an EP called The Rescue that just got re-released, only on vinyl.
Gotcha.
So it's like,
at some point, like if you're a big enough music fan, you could always stream, and that's always a viable option. I would say it's the cheapest option.
Boo. Down with streaming. Boo. Boo, Wendy Testerberger. Boo.
I should. One of these days we'll talk about South Park. I mean, we might have to have like Vince on for that or something. Our buddy Vince is a huge South Park fan. Yeah. So I'm sure he has a lot to say about that, but not today. Because today we're talking about a couple of subjects that we debated on from our childhood. Because now I think we're moving into content that is stuff that we've already seen and experienced, but we haven't talked about yet. And I was under the illusion that on a podcast you just had to talk about stuff that was new, that had just come out. But like, we don't have to do that. Do you know how many like movies and TV shows and video games and like albums we've experienced, and like we can just talk about those? Because not everyone needs a podcast. That was something that we learned over quarantine when everyone started making podcasts from home. But we just want to make a podcast because we like talking about this stuff, and I'm sure there's someone out there that likes to listen to this kind of stuff too, or listen to us talk about that kind of stuff. So today we're digging into the vault. We're digging into the memory banks of both of us and grabbing a couple of things from our childhoods and our relationship together like in middle school. So we're talking about Dragon Ball Z because that was what we mentioned we would talk about last week for this week. We're talking Trivium because as far as music goes, if we have merch for an artist that we are talking about in the podcast, we're gonna wear the merch for the video. So I think that's only fair. And David was wearing a Trivium shirt today, so we're talking about Trivium. Yeah, and then we're gonna talk about Hit and Run, which is one of
my favorite game of all time.
Your favorite game of all time, yeah. Because last week we talked about Persona 5, which is my favorite game of all time. So it's gonna be an even back and forth between the two of us as far as like things that we really really like. Because I also talked about Naruto last week, and that's a little like out of David's realm of things that he's seen. So but yeah, so I say we just get into it.
Yeah.
What are we getting into?
DB. DBZSGT.
Yeah, we're just gonna talk about Dragon Ball today. Which is, I would say, Dragon Ball is probably like it transcends anime and Japanese media, and it has permeated its way into Western culture so deeply that I think people think about anime and they think about Dragon Ball Z. It's like that is the like poster child. For Goku is the poster child for like anime and Japanese media. I think Hello Kitty too. Hello Kitty's kind of everywhere, and she popped up in Japan first. So, but now she's popping up on backpacks and stuff everywhere. And have you seen there are all of these like merch collaborations between the Hello Kitty characters and like other anime? Like I think we've seen merch at like Box Lunch where it's like,
I didn't even know there was other characters. I thought it was just Hello Kitty.
No, Hello Kitty's got a lot of friends.
I don't even know like what even is that? Is that like where did Hello Kitty come from?
I think it's kind of like a Barbie situation. I think she had a show at some point, but like I don't know how Hello Kitty started, honestly. But she's kind of everywhere now, where she has like TV shows and merchandise, and there's a truck back at my old job. I worked at a mall, and every once in a while we would have basically like a merch truck show up and park in the mall, like outside of Macy's for like a single day, like once a month. And it was like a Hello Kitty truck. And so there was all of this merchandise inside that was dedicated specifically to Hello Kitty. They had like macaroons, they had cookies, they also had like water bottles and notebooks and stuff like that. And the line for that thing, because it was like first come first serve. Like if you're not the first one there, you don't always have your pick of merchandise. But yeah, enough about Hello Kitty.
It's got derailed hardcore.
Yeah, derailed hardcore. But yeah, Dragon Ball's been around for a very long time. Like the original manga, I'm pretty sure came out in the 80s, like the late 80s. So as a franchise, it's almost like 40 years old, which is nuts. But we both kind of have different experiences with Dragon Ball, specifically when we were younger. So do you remember anything about Dragon Ball, like when we were kids? Because I don't think you were super into it back then.
No. I was like the only one that just wasn't into it. Everyone I know was into it. I just took like 15 years to get into it.
I mean, and that's fine. Sometimes it takes people a while.
Like I've known about like a lot of popular scenes about like Krillin dying and Frieza's transformation, because Josh, our other friend Josh,
yeah, shout out Josh,
super hardcore. He breeds Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
So like he's showing me scenes and drawings and all that stuff. I don't know. I just didn't have time or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, also it's kind of like a little overwhelming because there's a lot to it, and unlike shows that we watched when we were growing up, like a lot of Western shows didn't follow the format that most anime do, which is the format of you have a character, you have a cast of characters, and then from first episode to last episode, there are like arcs and through lines and like plots that advance every single episode, whereas shows that we watched as a kid, like, SpongeBob SquarePants or like Fairly Odd Parents or Courage the Cowardly Dog, mostly episodic. Like, each story, like every 25 minutes or whatever, was contained in that 25 minutes. Then every once in a while, like a character from a previous episode would pop up again. But I would say there were shows that I think I might have been more into that you were not, that kind of tailored to that part of storytelling that wasn't super present in the West. And that's shows like Teen Titans or like Shaolin Showdown. Like both of those shows. You like Shaolin Showdown?
Yo, I was hard on Shaolin Showdown.
Yeah, man. And that was the same thing where like it was kind of episodic, but there were straight up like character arcs that people would go through where like Raymundo, like there was a whole arc where he like was a bad guy and he like went to the dark side and like, the main cast had to figure. So it was like shows like that where there were like, stories that happened throughout an entire season as opposed to like just one episode. I think watching those helped me get into Dragon Ball like a lot quicker. And at least for me, I talked about this on my, I streamed a couple of weeks ago and I talked about Dragon Ball, specifically the game Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, which was my first PS2 game ever. And my PS2 was my first like home console ever. So like Dragon Ball made a huge impact with me because I had seen a little bit of it on like Toonami when it was airing. And I'd stayed up a little too late and started watching like the anime, which scared the ever-living crap out of me. But yeah, through playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 and like pretty much every Dragon Ball game, they retell the story over and over and over again. So like if you're a Dragon Ball fan and you're playing every one of these games, it's kind of annoying. But for me, I got to learn about all of these arcs and shows or parts of the show that I hadn't gotten to see live because gotten to see live because they happened without me. And then the story just continues. Like you can't just drop in on an episode of Dragon Ball Z and know what's going on. So playing the game really helped. And then, when we were kids on Toonami, the arc that they were like dubbing in English at the time was the Majin Buu saga. And to this day, like I know people like to clown on the Majin Buu saga for not being as good as like the Cell saga and the Frieza saga, but I think it's still my favorite purely out of nostalgia, and it introduced a lot of really cool concepts that are still used today, like Super Saiyan 3 and Fusion, both Potara and Fusion Dance, Goten and Trunks, Adult Gohan, like Ultimate Gohan. I don't know, man.
Dude, I was never crazy about the Cell saga.
Really?
Yeah.
I know our friend Josh loves the Cell saga. I think I don't know if he would say it's his favorite, but he's shown us that moment, the father-son Kamehameha at the end of the Cell saga, like so many times. But I mean, it's a good saga. I think I like the Android saga a little bit. Seeing Cell pretty much be a horror villain is kind of cool. Just going around sucking people's life out of them, and then it's just like bags of skin are left on the pavement.
Yeah, but I mean, like once they got to the actual Cell games,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, the Cell games, I'm not going to say that they're boring, but they do kind of just stay there for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts to ramp up towards the end. So I don't know. I still to this day, like I love the Dragon Ball franchise, and I haven't seen every bit of it. I've mostly only seen Z. I've watched Dragon Ball Z Kai and then all of Super. I've never seen GT, which you definitely have. Yeah.
Don't bother.
Yeah, I would say that not even a whole lot of concepts from GT are still prevalent today, except for Super Saiyan 4. Like Super Saiyan 4 is probably the only thing that you really need to take away from GT, and that's not even considered like canon anymore. But Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, the Monkey Man himself.
Yeah, all 3 minutes he was there.
Yeah, that's typically how fusions go, is like they show up for very little screen time and then they become fan favorites and then they're plastered everywhere. Yeah, and then the original Dragon Ball, I've only seen clips from. It seems like tonally like very different. Like it's an adventure anime, but it's also like kind of slower paced because there are scenes where like, Goku and Krillin as kids are training with Master Roshi on, at the Kame house. And they're like running bottles of milk up and down the beach. And it's like the actual like arcs in original Dragon Ball, I would say with my very limited knowledge, aren't as exciting as the arcs in like the future shows. But I guess that was kind of the point, you know, like it wasn't supposed to be this big grandiose thing. It was just supposed to be a fun, lighthearted adventure anime and manga. So, and then there's Super, and Super came out, you know, in our prime. Like, I forget when the year Super came out. I think it might have been like 2016, like 6 years ago. But yeah, I was very hesitant to start watching Super because that had come out at a point where I kind of had like fallen off a little bit. Like I still appreciated Dragon Ball, but like I wasn't watching anime. I wasn't really watching cartoons at all. Like I wasn't watching a whole, like the TV I was watching was like The Office, like Parks and Rec, like How I Met Your Mother, like adult shows. And in 2013, a couple years before Super had come out, Battle of Gods came out, like the movie. And I had a friend group in high school that wanted to go see it. And I was like, yeah, I'll go see it. I like Dragon Ball. I played Budokai 2 a lot. And I had, you know, I had seen a couple of the movies like since then. But this was a new movie and it was a big deal. And I remember walking out of the theater and I was like, yeah, that was fun. And I wasn't like blown away or anything. And same thing with like Resurrection F. I wasn't like blown away, but I went to go see it. And it wasn't until I downloaded Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle in like 2016 that it really started to like settle in for me, like, oh, this is a franchise that I really, really like. Because like the more you know, interact with those characters in that world, and like, you know, again on stream I was saying about how I play Dokkan pretty much every day. So like Dragon Ball Z is literally part of my like everyday life. Yeah, and then shortly around that time...
Dude, you know what's messed up?
What's messed up?
Last night, I literally had a dream where I pulled the Monkey Men.
Oh, dude. Yeah, for the 7th anniversary, they're coming out with a unit that's Super Saiyan 4, Goku, and Vegeta. And David and I mean, we've known about these units since January. And so, like, our version of the game is 6 months behind the Japanese version. So they'll get stuff for their anniversaries and things that we'll know, oh, our anniversary is 6 months from now. We'll know that these are the characters that we want, and then we save up for them. Yeah, it's not far away. Like, we have like a month and a half before those units drop.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah. But around the time that I started playing Dokkan again, was when I started getting really into Dragon Ball. And then it was like after I graduated, like after, you know, college, like 2018, that's when I think you were finally like, we were talking about Dragon Ball. We were coming out of the city too. I don't know what we went to go see or what we went to go do. But I had mentioned Dragon Ball Super Broly to you as like a place to start. And then I think that's when we made the decision to watch Broly together. So, like, tell me what was going on in your head, like, when we were talking about that.
Dude, I'm so new to Dragon Ball that I debated just playing the Kakarot game instead of watching the show. That's how new I am.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just... Because you were, like, you always played Dokkan, right? And
yeah.
I heard the soundtracks. And I was just thinking about it, like... Man, everyone's into this series except me.
Mm.
And then, yeah, randomly I was just like, you know what? Tell me the entire storyline right now.
Yeah.
For like a half hour, you're just explaining what happens in Z. And then we got back, we watched Broly, and I was like, well, all right, let me give this a shot.
Yeah, and it was a long road. It was a really long road because, first of all, for a while, you couldn't even find where Dragon Ball Z was streaming. Like Dragon Ball Z Kai, I think you had to legally download all of the episodes.
I did. And, well, other Josh.
Right. Yeah.
He owns, like, at least the first saga on DVD. So I watched those, and then, yeah, I had to... perfectly legally watch the rest of the series. And I don't know what kind of I mentioned this in like the video we did, but like whatever jank version I downloaded, like the music sucked because there was 2 music loops the entire series.
Yeah.
the first one was kind of cool. That lasted up until Cell, and then from like what's after Cell, like the tournament.
Yeah, there's the first part of the Majin Buu saga arc is like focused on Gohan.
Yeah, when he's in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, from there on, there was like this country twiddle sounding thing, and it was just the worst.
Twiddle.
So I missed out on all that like Dragon Ball soundtrack,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks. But I also didn't watch Vanilla Z because it's 300 episodes, and
Yeah, and Vanilla Z, there's a lot of filler, and like the nice thing about Kai is that they trim a lot of the fat, and like most of these actors have been playing the characters for, years. So even though, Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat, like they, as Goku and Vegeta respectively, they do a good job in Z. But you can definitely tell that their performances have changed a lot. Cause like Vegeta in Vanilla Z, ooh boy, he sounded, I wouldn't even say so different, but like it sounded like he was trying really, really hard to sound like Vegeta. I don't know. It's just like now Vegeta just comes so effortless. Like it just sounds so much more like an actual person than like a character, because before he would sound like this, or I don't know if I'm doing it right, but now like Vegeta, when he talks, he's a little bit, like this, and he's not like doing as much of a character. He's just, so like it's cool because Kai kind of like takes those performances from the original show and like those iconic lines and scenes and stuff and makes them, better in most cases. But along with that, like the music changes. So like in Vanilla Z, in the dub, there was a composer named Bruce Falconer who did the music, and the music was a lot more like rock oriented, and like there were a lot more guitars and heavy drums. And the Japanese soundtrack was vastly different. And so for Kai, I think the decision was made to like use the same soundtrack as the Japanese version instead of like remake the soundtrack, because one, that's a lot more money to have to pay someone to like make music and record and get studio time and blah blah blah. But yeah, and like some of the other performances, like from Z to Kai, they hired new people. Like they hired a new voice for Bulma. They hired a new voice for Gohan, like Kid Gohan. And like they're both great now, but like at first I remember watching the first episodes of Kai, and I was very confused because I was like, that's not Gohan. No, that's not Bulma. Like Bulma, they sound different. But that was when they were airing on one of the Nickelodeon channels. There was like not like a Nicktoons, but it was like, X something. I don't know, but Kai is good. And
doesn't old Z have like the really old Frieza actor?
Yes, and Linda Young is her name. And she's still at Funimation, and she still does like voices every once in a while. But I think it got to a point where she had done the show and so many games and like all of this screaming. I think at a certain point she was like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. So they recast Frieza, and for a long time he was voiced by Chris Ayres, who, rest in peace, Chris Ayres. But he did such a good job as Frieza, and like he emulated the little quirks and performances of like the Japanese voice for Frieza so well. It was like the original voice actor in Japanese was just speaking English. It was like the laugh too, like the like that was so good. And then he came back in Super, and then in all of the games and stuff, I think he was voiced by someone else, someone who like could more regularly do it, because Chris was going through a lot of health issues and stuff, but came back ultimately like for the Broly movie, and so great guy, great performance. But yeah, so I don't know. I like Kai. I'd have to go back and watch Z again, but again, I've played so many of the games that just retell the story. Like I played through Kakarot, and it's fine. But yeah, and then we got into Super, which like, do you prefer Z to Super?
It's tough because some parts, like a lot of the World Tournament and like the Future Saga stuff.
Yeah.
But then, like, nothing even came close to like the Frieza saga, you know?
Yeah. Frieza saga and like the Saiyan saga, like both of those together are probably one of my favorite anime arcs ever, because it's so well done. Because you find out that Goku is an alien and he has a brother, and then like more Saiyans show up, and then that directly leads to Planet Namek, because Vegeta's like, I'm gonna get Dragon Balls and kill this guy.
Yeah, I was really surprised because like when I first watched Kai, I was surprised to see that Saiyans were like enemy, like bad people.
Yeah, Saiyans show up, and then like you learn through like the Broly movie and like little bits of flashbacks here and there that like Saiyans were a warrior race that were pretty much just hired as like, hired hitmen to like take over planets. And so like they're savage like in nature, and they're like aggressive people, or they're seen as aggressive people. And and then the Frieza saga is just, people make jokes about how like that Frieza versus Goku fight in universe, it only lasts like 3 days, but it's like 100 episodes in real life. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the Frieza saga is never going to get topped. And originally, I had read somewhere that Akira Toriyama, the author of Dragon Ball Z, he intended to end the show like after the Frieza saga. And then Shonen Jump, or his editors or whatever, were like, hey man, make more of this. And then he drafted up a draft for the Android saga. And then, he had, I think, Dr. Gero be like the main bad guy in the Android saga. And then his editors were like, nope, he's too ugly. Make them more attractive. Like, make more attractive enemies. And then he created Android 17 and 18. And then, same thing with the Buu saga. Like, he wanted it to be over by the time the Buu saga came around. And he set it up so that Gohan would be the main character. And then the editors were like, people don't like this. Like, kids don't like this. Bring Goku back. So they bring Goku back in like what seems like kind of a forced way, because like they set up the first little bit of the Buu saga, and he's in high school and he's doing the Great Saiyaman thing, and then it completely takes a turn, and then it becomes a battle anime again, where like Vegeta shows up and Goku shows up, and Majin Vegeta, which is, there are really cool moments because of these decisions, but like as the show goes on, you can kind of tell that like the story was kind of supposed to wrap up a lot sooner. So things get wackier, and then Super happens. There are some wacky parts in Super for sure.
Yeah, and then it just keeps going, keeps on trucking with this other stupid ass titled movie.
Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which I'm excited for because we're bringing Gohan back. The manga is still going, which is going to be turned into a show at some point. So it's like Dragon Ball as a franchise is going to get milked until the end of time, because it's such a recognizable property, and like people love the characters so much. And I think it's fair to say that we are among that population of people that's like, yeah, Dragon Ball's really cool, and it's a really cool games and movies and like music and all of these things that kind of like live with us. So I'm excited for Superhero. It's supposed to be in August when it gets released globally. So be sure to stay tuned for our review on that, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, speaking of Josh in middle school, one of the other things that like I had a lot of trouble kind of relating to, you guys in middle school, it was music. Because like I listened to a lot of artists that I don't think you would ever have listened to at that time, and vice versa. But I so badly wanted to be like part of the friend group. I so badly wanted to be like cool, that I started listening to like metal music, and I listened to like Metallica and Megadeth, and I like those artists. But one artist that it took me a really, really long time to get into is Trivium. And like you and Josh, I don't know who introduced who first, but y'all were into Trivium for a while.
Josh introduced me. Most certainly, because I guess his brother was super into them. Like I guess he still remembers the day like In Waves came out and they were playing it in their house.
Yeah, I mean that was 2011, right?
Yeah.
So we were in like 7th grade.
I started listening to them in 2012, 2012, I think it was. Yeah, because it was right around when Avengers came out.
Oh yeah.
Because
that was what our freshman, like our sophomore year of high school,
something like that.
Yeah,
I know that because like in my favorites on my YouTube playlist, like because Down from the Sky was the first song, and then right around there was like the Avengers trailer. So I was like, oh, so that's like when I started listening to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he showed me In Waves and Down from the Sky, and I liked Down from the Sky, except the screaming part.
Yep.
And so I listened to that song mostly for everything else. And then eventually the screaming just kind of grows on you. All it takes is like one song. I like this part, but not that part.
Yeah.
So you listen to that song a bunch, and then eventually that other part grows on you. And shit, man, like they were the ones that changed it all for me. Because without them, Between the Bear and Me, The Faceless,
yeah,
all this stuff, Isan, like I would never have listened to them without Trivium and Down from the Sky specifically.
I mean, that's nuts that it's just kind of like a ripple effect like that from, one to another. Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way. Like when I would hear you guys talk about Trivium, because it was a very apparent shift when pretty much all we listened to, like when we were together, was Metallica, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, have you heard that new Trivium? And I'm like, I don't know who that is. And I kind of refused to listen to them because that was around the time that I was like starting to branch off in a different direction too. Like I started listening to more like classic rock, like Beatles and Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and Aerosmith, and it took me a while to get into Trivium too. I think there was a time like later in high school, like junior year, senior year, I would drive around and I would, because I never had any of the CDs. I had never had any of their albums. And then in college, the first Trivium album that I bought was Silence in the Snow, which was kind of like catered not to me, but it felt like it, because like it didn't really have any screaming at all. So it kind of
did not.
Yeah. So it took all of the really cool melodic ideas and the metal ideas and that I liked, and they put them onto one album. So that was kind of the album that I listened to over and over again and got me like super into the band. And so like, the past couple of years they've put out albums and singles and stuff, and David's always the first to be like, hey man, check out that new Trivium. And I'm like, hell yeah. And then we'll listen to it in the car and,
Yeah, we got into the band at a very interesting point in their career.
Yeah.
Because, Vengeance Falls was the first album that came out that I was super into. So Brave the Storm was like my first single.
And Brave the Storm is really good.
Yeah. And Vengeance, I really liked it when it came out. Mm-hmm. But like, over time, even they themselves, they were like, it's not really our best work.
Yeah. And
then, Silence happened, and I guess Matt had problems with his screaming voice. That's why there wasn't any.
Yeah.
They were shifting through a couple of drummers here and there.
Yeah, which tends to happen. Drummers get cycled through bands like that.
And then just when you think they're kind of like heading down, they drop a song called Sin in the Sentence with this new drummer. And holy shit. My God, if he's not one of the greatest in the game right now. Alex Bent is an absolute maniac.
Like bend, but like past tense. Like bent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought his name was Brent. I thought there was an... For some reason, my brain puts R's in places where it doesn't belong.
Huh.
Because I infamously called a Genesis album a trick of the trail when it's actually a trick of the tail.
Oh, okay.
And people gave me shit about that like all the time in the comments.
Oh, no.
And then I called this guy the wrong last name for like a year.
Yeah. And no one calls you out on it. No one's...
Yeah, well, I didn't really talk about it to anyone.
Oh, gotcha.
But if I had a YouTube channel where I call him Alex Brent, then probably,
Yeah, Alex Brent sounds like a country artist. Like Alex Bent and Alex Brent are very different people. Like Brent is singing about pickup trucks and beer and my dog,
But yeah, at this point, with his trilogy of Trivium albums and then Matt's latest solo release, Mockery, the dude's crazy, man.
Yeah, and I guess Matt Heafy is streaming on Twitch a lot too. And he's doing video game stuff, but he's also doing music tutorials and just like playing stuff at home, like in his home. And he has a sister that does music too that I found at some point, and she does like video game covers. And like, I don't know, it's a very cool development to kind of, because like we both kind of started at different places in Trivium, but like they branched off into completely different paths too. Because like, now I listen to stuff and like I'm used to the screaming, and I like the screaming too. And I've learned to appreciate like different styles of screaming as well, like low screams and growls and like high screams and stuff. It's never anything that I would try to do because I got a baby. That's me when I try to scream. I'll just scream along to like the clean parts. And even then it's like, yeah, kudos to Matt, man. Like you play lead guitar and you sing those kind of notes and melodies and stuff. What the fuck?
And it's weird because they are the only band like in that metalcore genre that I like. Like Ascendancy is hardcore, like
metalcore.
Those like that edgy sound that I never liked.
Sure.
Which a lot of bands, kind of are. Like what are like I don't want to say Black Veil Brides.
Black Veil Brides, I think, is metalcore.
Yeah, or like
like Sleeping with Sirens. Or
yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like I hate.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I think it's because I got into the other stuff, like Shogun.
Yep.
I got into Shogun first, and then I went back to Ascendancy, and it's like in the middle of my ranking. It's definitely not my favorite.
Sure,
but like I still like it.
Yeah, and I think that's what it takes with some artists is you just like completely opposite end of the spectrum here. I got into I don't know how much shit I'm gonna get for this. I got into Coldplay with their album Milo Ziloto, which is very electronic. Like it's very, like electronic poppy and experimental. And then I went back and I listened to like Parachutes and Rush of Blood to the Head, which is a lot more organic and like rock sounding, or like even Parachutes. That's just like singer-songwriter stuff. It's just like acoustic guitar, like things that I would have played in high school on guitar. And it was like, I wouldn't have known about this stuff, and I wouldn't have appreciated this stuff more had I not started where I started. So it's like, it's kind of crazy that, like we started in different spots and appreciate the band for different things, but like, it's still, it's still the same band. It's still the same artist.
It's tough to say like a favorite band.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I could lock it in at Trivium. Is my favorite band.
That's a big deal.
And, speaking of my favorite things.
Yeah, we're going to start singing My Favorite Things from what is that? Rodgers and Hammerstein.
These are a few of my favorite things. When the snow falls. When the droplets.
When I'm feeling sad. I just turn on.
I love that goddamn Simpsons hit and run.
And then I don't feel so bad. Woo. So for anyone who didn't like the scene in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness where Wanda's two kids sing that that's stupid ice cream song. Oh my god. I'm so glad that people are tearing it apart online. Like, I've seen so many TikToks where people are straight up like, you can go to the bathroom for this part. Like, it's really bad. People hate that song. I hate it too. I hate Timmy and Tommy are fine characters.
Save it for the bonus episode. That's your bonus episode right there.
Okay, Simpsons Hit and Run.
Dude. It's like, when you have like your favorite thing and it's just like locked up top.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that could possibly like dethrone it,
Yeah.
That's Hit and Run for me. Like Breath of the Wild, I think, is a much better game.
Yeah.
And I would play it much more. But Hit and Run is just in this spot where like it's just unbeatable.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? Like we're so biased towards our favorite things, and it could be a number of factors, but it's a good sign when we can acknowledge like when another thing is objectively better, but it's like, no, I like this one more because it's my favorite.
Dude, like I've been playing that game for 19 years and running. It came out. I remember the day it came out in 2003.
It's a lot of years.
You remember the Scholastic magazines you get in school?
Yeah, like the book fair that would come to the library, and
yeah,
you would ask your parents to like give you a little bit of money because you knew the book fair was coming, and you'd get like a big eraser that you wouldn't functionally ever use, but it was like, dude, the feeling that you had when you were walking back to class from the book fair and you just had all your stuff and you just put it on top of your desk and you're like, this is what I got. I remember before I realized it was manga, I got the first chapter, like the first volume of like the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. Because I had watched Yu-Gi-Oh on TV, and I guess the Scholastic was like, oh yeah, kids like Yu-Gi-Oh. So I remember buying that. But like, was that how it was for you with like Hit and Run? Like, did you see it at a book fair, or was it?
It was just on the magazine.
Oh.
And like, I was like, yeah, I watched The Simpsons. So I was like, I circled that. I want this one. And yeah, I got it for the PC. Mm-hmm. Somehow ran on my piece of shit E-Machines Windows XP off-brand ass computer that died in 2009. Rest in peace.
Pour one out.
But, dude, yeah. Like, I don't know what it is about it. Like, maybe it was just the timing, but I was hardcore addicted to that game as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, which is it's easy to find things that are addicting when you're 8. Because we're just so bored.
Because my parents were the kind that would not give me rated M games, which changed for my brother. Because here's Grand Theft Auto 5, here's God. Fallout 4.
Yeah,
but me, I want Gears 2. No, unacceptable. So naturally, I never had Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah.
So Hit and Run was my version, and the way that game. GTA 3 changed like open world forever.
Yeah.
Hit and Run did that for me.
And I don't know if my mom was the type to buy me rated M games, but I had Grand Theft Auto 3 when I was 8, and I think now she looks back on that and she's like, that was maybe a mistake. Maybe she wished she gotten me Hit and Run, but yeah, dude, I remember coming over and I remember you showing me Hit and Run and showing me all like the hidden vehicles and like the different levels that you can play at. So like 7 levels, right? And like they each take place in a different like map.
There's three
maps.
like hub worlds.
Yeah, and they change like the time changes and like different parts of the map change depending on like the level you're in.
Yeah, you explore like the level 1 Springfield 3 times.
Yeah, in the first the Lisa one, right? Or is it Marge?
Homer, and then Marge, and then Homer again.
Okay, yeah, because Bart and Lisa have the same. No,
Bart and Apu are in downtown Springfield, and
Bart
Lisa, and then the second time he plays Bart are in like the docks area.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought I mean, anytime I would come over and you would show that game to me, like I thought it was really cool, and I'd only watched The Simpsons on Fox like. Because it was like a 5 o'clock, like 5:30 show. And I started watching it in like elementary school because I think like my uncle was super into The Simpsons and Family Guy, and so I started watching it with them. But yeah, after you showed me that game, I wanted that game too. So I ended up getting that game. I ended up getting Hit and Run too, but yeah, man, it was a really fun Grand Theft Auto. I don't want to even call it a Grand Theft Auto clone because like it feels like its own thing, but
it was just how Road Rage was a direct copy of Crazy Taxi, which they got sued for.
Really?
Yeah. Hit and Run was very much supposed to be like GTA 3.
Yeah.
But I like it so much more. So much more.
Which is
mostly because I think GTA 3 aged like milk.
Yeah, it aged. It's garbage. It's like even the remaster that came out like within the last year, people don't really like
remaster.
Yeah, like it still looks like polished, low poly. It's like they didn't build it from the ground up. Is what I'm trying to say. But
yeah, man, I was so hardcore into Hit and Run that a couple years ago, my whole basement was getting redone, and so it was really noisy. So what I do, I just put on some headphones, and I've always had this dream about getting to 1,000,000 coins. And
like an actual dream.
Yeah,
like
as a kid, I was like, man, I wonder what it'd be like to have 1,000,000 coins in this game.
Can you get up to that? Will you break the game?
Yeah. And after like 15 years of slowly getting, I made up to like 500,000 after like 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, if I do like 2,000 a day, I'd get there in like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I stopped for a while. And then when my basement was getting redone, that's when I really ramped it up. I hit 1,000,000 within like a month. Yes, I know. I actually hit 1,000,000 coins in the Xbox version.
Woo!
So no hacks.
No hacks.
Just my one-hit car blow-up cheat and driving around the BART level in that square for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and I would come over to like come pick you up or like hang out with you, and you would be like, "Oh, hold on, I just gotta," and then you would show me how many coins you had at like any given time. And I thought that was nuts, dude. Like I thought that was nuts of you to do.
And then I pop in the PC version. There's like there's a whole community for this game. I am not the only one. There's like a whole team, donut team, where they make like mods. They made a multiplayer mod. They make their own levels. Like there's like an unofficial like sequel to Hit and Run that they're making.
Oh shoot.
And someone made a mod where it connects all 3 maps into one. Like it's crazy. I'm not the only one.
I just remember it was a game that I played when I was a kid. I would play games kind of semi-religiously, like, but only like one at a time. And then only if I got really bored, I would go back to an older game, because like a lot of games at that time that I owned were like movie tie-in games. Like I had the Incredibles video game that I played a lot. I had like Tak and the Power of Juju like 2, and I liked that game a lot too. But like, I don't know, man. Hit and Run was one of those that I remember playing for like a long time. Partially because like I had you to kind of compare things with, and that's always the best feeling. And then once we got Xbox Live and Xboxes, Xbones, we would play Gears together, and the multiplayer aspect of games kind of like shifted, and I never really went back to those kind of single player games for a long time. Like I needed to get a PS2 or a PS4 first, because any game that I had on Xbox 360 was like multiplayer. Same thing with Xbox One. Like I didn't have a whole lot of like single player games, but I look back on Hit and Run very fondly, and we actually got to do a cover of one of the songs from Hit and Run. Man, that was like 2 years ago. Something like that. Like neither of us had moved out of our parents' places yet, and I had just gotten like a keyboard and like my home studio a little bit up and running, and and I remember I recorded bass for that for you, and then the keyboard part. And that was really fun. I think that was a cool little tribute to that game.
I wanted to cover that song for so long.
Yeah.
And even back in the day, I had like a whole written guide on a website where I just typed out like a full like walkthrough and everything. Of the game? Yeah. I made a video talking about some glitches, which currently has 21,000 views, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
I finally did a review of the game. We did the cover.
Yeah.
Yo, that game is my life.
Yeah, and then no other Simpsons game or thing that has come out since then has been as impactful, because like the Simpsons game came out, like the original game, and that was really fun. I remember that was kind of they did something to this day, like an unprecedented like marketing campaign with that, where each version of the game had a different like pre-order bonus. And it was like, if you pre-ordered like the PS2 version, you got like, there's a Homer power up where he turned into a big fat ball and he rolled around. And like, I had that foam like Homer, and like each version had a different case, like artwork for the case, and they all had different posters on the inside. So I had like the Bartman poster, but they also had like the Chocolate Land, the Willy Wonka Land
Medal of Homer
poster, Medal of Homer, yeah. So that was a fun thing, and I think that was another Simpsons thing that we were able to kind of like bond over too. But yeah, Hit and Run is kind of where it's all started.
Yeah,
because we were like 7, 8 when that game came out, and we played it.
Next year is gonna be its 20th anniversary, and man, I gotta do something for that.
Yeah, hey man, start a Twitch channel and like just stream you playing that game.
Yeah, I need to like learn how to speedrun it.
Yeah, honestly, that would be a really fun speedrun. Just be like, hey, Hit and Run turns 20 years old. I started this Twitch channel and I'm gonna speedrun Hit and Run. So fuck it, watch me do it. But that's for next year. And I feel like we wrapped this kind of episode up really quickly. Partially because like we're filming during the day, which we never do. We always film in the evening, so I think that's probably part of it. Is I feel more awake, or maybe I feel more sleepy and I want to just get through it. But no, I mean it was a fun time. I liked getting to talk about like childhood things and things that we've already like experienced. But starting next week, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's anything show, music, or movie-wise or video game-wise that I'm kind of in the middle of. So this might be the trend for a little bit until we go see a new movie. But yeah, so it'll be a good time. Check out our YouTube channels. On YouTube, there will be a link in the description to both of those. Check me out on Twitch. I got music too. I got David playing drums for me on my EP, Golden Part 1, so check that out. And check out our socials, because we got to plug those. But aside from that, have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the middle of May, which is cooled down significantly, so I get to wear long sleeves and actual pants.
Temperature cut in half since last week.
Yeah, which is a little nuts. I welcome it, but I'm sure David's kind of in a different boat.
It was 90 all last week, and I didn't have any shorts. Now I have shorts. Back to 50.
Yeah, this week has not been your best friend. I have.
Anyway, well,
just ignores that.
This is
Nick Scarpinato, and this is Vanessa.
I am David Capucha Cars, and that was a Lamborghini Gallardo LP 560-4.
Check us out next time, same channel, with more interesting stuff. But until then, I have to go to the store because I forgot yams for this yam pudding that I'm making for a bat mitzvah later. So I got to go do that because I know yams sell out very quickly around this time of year. Don't look at my camera.
Who the hell eats yams? I don't even think I've ever eaten a yam.
We're going to go eat some yams. Okay, bye.